So if you guys are in the market for an action camera, you definitely have a few really good options to choose from. And of course, we are here to talk about the all new DJI Action 5 Pro. Now, GoPro recently released their newest one, the GoPro 13 Black, and we are still waiting for Insta360s to come out, probably around the Ace Pro 2. Hopefully that'll be coming out soon. Now, I've been using Action 5 Pro for the past few weeks now, taking it with me on vacation, using it in the ocean, in the pool, putting it, of course, into some scenarios where an action camera would fit best compared to something like your phone or a bigger mirrorless camera. And of course, I have a bunch of side-by-side shots comparing them against the cameras that were currently on the market. So I will be breaking this video down into 3 different categories. Of course, image quality. That's probably the main one that everyone cares about. We'll dive into some of the latest technology on this camera, what makes it different this year versus last year. After that, the next category we'll get into is user experience, which is my favorite category. And then finally, we'll get into durability. We'll talk about the Action 5 Pro. What did they change on this model versus the other ones? How much better is the battery life? I will have a separate video going into a lot more details of these 2 cameras here, the Action 5 Pro, GoPro 13 Black, all the changes that were made between these 2. If you guys want to see that video, make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel. Now, one thing to note, everything I'm showing on screen is going to be straight out of camera. I'm not going to do any post-processing on it, so you guys know what to expect once you take this out of the box. With that said, let's jump right into the Action 5 Pro. Let's talk about all the things that have been updated on this camera. Now, the first thing I did notice when I got the camera, the form factor, everything looks and feels the same as the Action 4 and pretty much as the Action 3. However, we have an all new updated sensor on this one. I know a lot of people were hoping for a 1-inch sensor, and same thing with the 13 Black. A lot of people were hoping for the 1-inch sensor. I feel like we're almost at that point where we might be able to make that transition, but not there just yet. We're still at the 1/1.3-inch CMOS sensor on the Action 5 Pro. We also have that same sensor size on the Action 4 and also on the Ace Pro. Here on the GoPro, we have a smaller sensor, 1/1.9-inch. The Action 5 Pro does have a new 4nm image processing chip, which is rated to give us 13.5 stops of dynamic range, which is a nice bump up compared to the Action 4. Here's a bunch of side-by-side footage of the 5 Pro compared to a few of these cameras here. Next new update we have is slow motion. Now you are able to shoot in 1080p up to 240 frames a second. Now, one difference from the slow motion we have on the GoPro versus the Action 5 is that with this new processing chip, you're not able to take that 1080p 240 frames a second video and slow that footage down another 4 times to give you something equivalent to about 960 frames a second in 1080p. Now that is 4 times interpolated slow motion. However, it is nice that they are able to do that and still have a higher resolution at 1080p. A new mode was added on this camera. If you were to go to the menu here, we now have a mode called Super Night Mode. Now this new mode uses an all new AI noise reduction algorithm, giving you the ability to shoot a lot better video in low light scenarios. Here's a few side-by-side tests. All right guys, doing a little low light test and trying out the new Super Night Mode on the DJI Action 5. It is pretty dark in here. We have a bunch of walkway lights, got a restaurant behind me, got some sports venue over here, but the night mode, new Super Night Mode on the Action 5, from my screen it looks really good. On my GoPro Hero 13, I could barely see myself in the screen. All right, now we're going head-to-head low light with the Insta360 Ace Pro version 1, because we don't have the new one yet, versus the Action Pro 5. Now, both of these cameras have the same size sensor. Like I mentioned, the DJI is supposed to have a all new sensor, but how does the low light look compared to each other versus the GoPro? The GoPro was like pitch black. We have the pure video mode on the Ace Pro. That is what they do, or they have for their low light setting, pure video. On the DJI Action 5 Pro, we have what they call super night mode. So we got pure video mode versus DJI's super night mode. How do these look? Low light tests. Next, we'll talk about video resolution, and we do have similar resolutions that we had here on the Action 4. Now we have that on the 5 Pro. You're able to shoot 4K up to 120 frames a second. All right, next up that we have is the ability to shoot in 4K, but also in 4:3 aspect ratio. Shoots a little bit more square, gives you some options in post-processing. So if you want to cut a vertical video, you're able to do that, or as well, if you want to cut a standard widescreen 16:9, you are able to do that as well. It allows you to still shoot in 4K, but in that 4:3 aspect ratio. Next, we'll talk about image stabilization, and all of these cameras do a really, really good job as far as image stabilization goes. Everything, of course, is still internal. We still have electronic image stabilization on all of these cameras. The Rocksteady option is what you would normally use, I would say, just on a daily basis of using this camera. They also have Rocksteady Plus, which gives you a little bit more stabilization. However, it punches in just a little bit. The next one we have is horizon balancing, which allows you to have your camera shooting, and if you were to move up to about 45 degrees, it'll still keep that horizon nice and leveled. And finally, we have horizon steady, which allows you to shoot 360 degrees, and it'll maintain your level or maintain your horizon. The thing is, you have to drop your resolution from 4K down to 2.7, same as what we had here on the Action 4. Well, if I swing my camera 360 degrees, you wouldn't even notice it, because ideally the camera will just keep the horizon nice and flat. So this is what it looks like. I am moving it all around, and ideally the horizon should be flat. Let's twist it upside down. And all the feature we have here on the Action 5 is a feature called subject tracking. Now, you will be shooting in 4K, however, your actual output is going to be in 2.7K. Now, what happens is that when your subject is moving around in the frame, it's now going to try to position the video to keep it within that 2.7 box. So it does shoot larger, but in order to keep that subject in the frame, it's gonna move that video around. That's the reason why you're only able to export it out in 2.7. And just like we had here on the Action 4 and the Action 3, in that little O of the Action logo here at the very bottom, we do have that color temperature sensor. That temperature sensor is there to ideally get you the most natural, realistic look straight out of camera, as well as help if you're going from different environments. You're going from underwater, back to the surface, and back. Now, if you're the type to use your Action camera for photos, massive upgrade here. 40 megapixel on the 5 Pro, a big jump from the 10 megapixel we had on the Action 4, and it's even higher than what we have here on the GoPro 13. This comes in at 27 megapixels. Now, one thing DJI does do is that when you are shooting in that D-Log or the HLG mode, is that normally on most cameras, if you're shooting in that D-Log or flat profile, it'll normally be flat on the screen, so it'll show it almost like a black and white pretty much. But you actually have a colored screen or color reproduction of the video, almost like if you were to turn on something like Color Assist on some of the other devices. Now, when it comes down to onboard audio, we do have 3 mics here on this camera, similar to what we had here on the Action 4. All right, doing a little walk-in vlog style type of shoot, because I'm all going in and out of these shadows, these trees. I'm kind of curious on how well each one of these cameras do. We have the Action 5 here on the right. We also have the GoPro, the Hero 13 here on the left. So how does the camera, how is it treating those low light areas? Let's go in, let's go back out of the sun. Next, we'll talk about field of view. We do have that same 155 degree field of view on the ultra wide here on the 5 Pro. While here on the GoPro 13, we do have what they call hyper view, which is their widest field of view. Now, the one thing I did notice with the GoPro still, and this is also on the GoPro Hero 12, is that when you are on the widest setting, as you can see here, it is extremely wide. The one thing I did notice with the GoPro, however, is that anything that's in the center looks really good, but when you go over here to the sides, you can see a lot more distortion here on the GoPro See how it kind of bends out? Has that fisheye look right there. A lot more on the GoPro versus here on the DJI Action. We don't have as much warping on the outside. So you see this tree here on the left coming up and turning, and you can see how the Action is handling that edge compared to the GoPro right over here. That was still an issue that they had on the Hero 12, and they haven't corrected that here on the Hero 13. That is something that DJI did fix. Even though it is ultra wide, they are able to somehow fix it, so it corrects it a little bit in camera, so you don't have to deal with anything in post. When it comes down to shooting color profiles, I do like the fact that we have a bunch of options now on the 5 Pro. For the most part, if I don't want to do any post-processing on my footage, I will normally just shoot in the normal 10-bit, but we have a few different options here. If you scroll down, we have normal 8-bit, we have normal 10-bit. We also have a new one, which is HLG in 10-bit. So if you do want to have a little bit more flexibility in post-processing, you're going to want to shoot in that D-Log to flatter profile. But what it does is that it retains a lot more information in those shadows and the highlight areas. So if you are going to be adjusting, doing a little bit more post-processing, you're going to want to shoot in that 10-bit D-Log. Next, let's talk about some user experience enhancements we have on the new camera. The size of the 5 is actually the same size as the 4 and the same size as the 3. And this is the vertical frame, so if you hook up the 5 to it, fits perfectly in there. Drop the 4 in. And then same with the 3. All of those fit right in there. Next, we'll talk about mounting. And if you guys know DJI, they were the ones that came up with the whole magnetic system where you're able to hook it up. There's some hooks on the side, it has a magnet in the middle, and it keeps it nice and strong, and you just have to pop it off. If you want to go from mount to mount, you want to go from your head mount, chest mount, to a vlog mount, they made it super simple with this whole system. And the success from that one, Insta360 took that one and went with their own mount. So they do have the hook system. The one thing I do like about the Insta360 one is that it's able to lock. You're able to lock it in here. So if I were to squeeze this on the side, you can't pop it off. Now what's interesting is that Ulanzi actually made a third-party one for the GoPro, and it does pretty much the same thing as that one did. Now with the 13, the GoPro 13, they pretty much took what Ulanzi made as a third-party mount, and they've integrated it into their own system here. And also, if you want to shoot true vertical video with the Action, you pop it into the frame here, and then the magnets would hook onto the bottom just like this. So you're able to get now that 4K shot in vertical mode. Next new feature we have here is the always on display. And this is actually really cool, especially if you're using your camera at night or for longer periods of time and you don't want your display to not only be on the whole time because it's going to suck up some of the battery. So if you want to see how long you've been shooting for, you can actually have that displayed here, once in red, once in the dark mode, or you can just have it so the indicator is on. And just like we had on the Action 4, if you do want to sync up your camera with other cameras or other devices that use timecode, they do have the timecode built into the Action 5 Pro. Now with the form factor and the size the same, they did make a small tweaks to the actual body. We have a slightly larger record button here at the very top. And here on the side, we still have the quick switch button, which is still my favorite button on this Action camera. That quick switch button allows you to then toggle through either 5 custom settings that you saved or toggle through all of the other presets that they have available on the camera. Now for those that want to use your Action 5 as a live stream or webcam, you are able to do that up to 1080p 30 frames a second. And also if you want to open the door, you can actually charge it or continuously charge it through here just by keeping that powered up with that USB-C on the side. Now when it comes down to the weight of the Action cameras, the Action 5 Pro comes in at 146 grams. We have the Action 4 that comes in actually a little bit heavier, 148 grams. The GoPro Hero 12, or GoPro 12, 154 grams. However, that also has the Ulanzi mount here at the very bottom, so take that in consideration. 13 Black comes in 157 grams. Next up that we have here on the 5 Pro is we have a larger screen. I didn't really think you can get much larger. We have a 2.5 inch screen now on the rear of the 5 Pro. Where here on the Action 4, we have a 2.25 inch rear screen. You actually see the left side of the bevel. You can see it's pushed all the way out. So almost a full screen here on the Action 5 Pro. Comparing that to the GoPro 13 Black, GoPro 13 Black has a 2.27 inch screen, and also here on the Ace Pro, we have a 2.4 inch screen. And besides being bigger in size, they are actually dual HDR OLED touchscreen. So you have touchscreens on the rear as well as on the front. I really like that front touchscreen because you're able to make adjustments, make changes to it while the camera's facing you. This is something that we did not get on the GoPro 13 Black. We still do not have a front touchscreen. And then here on the Ace Pro, you don't have a front touchscreen. However, you do have the flip up screen here. So if you wanted to touch the screen on this side, you are able to do that. But this one that is built into the front, this is also not a touchscreen. Now, this next update is really cool because if you guys have ever used the DJI Action 4, you know that you can actually hook up a wireless microphone. This is the DJI Wireless Mic 2 setup, and you can hook up this via Bluetooth to the Action 4 and use this and just have a wireless mic. But DJI now opened it up the same way we have it on the DJI Pocket 3, where you can actually have two mics. You have the ability to hook up two separate microphones via Bluetooth to the Action 5 Pro. Not having to have cables or the ports open is actually a pretty big deal because it keeps this thing weather sealed and waterproof, and you have that wireless mic setup.
Now this is one feature I use a lot, and that is hooking up wireless mics to your camera. Now with the Pocket, we were able to hook up two wireless mics. This is the DJI Wireless Mic 2. On the Action 4, you're able to hook up one. Now on the Action 5, we can hook up two. So you have two wireless mic systems that you can hook up to yourself and maybe one to a talent, and you can have crispy direct Bluetooth audio from all the way back there. And what's great is that you can have it so it does auto record, and you have 32-bit float recording directly onto the mic.
No, yes you can. Ow, my ankle. Oh, got you. Oh, shoot. Go on in. Oh no, you okay?
And for those that want to track all of your data, whether you're out there running, biking, mountain climbing, you're able to connect this to your Apple Watch, to the Garmin devices, a lot of the other third-party devices as well, if you wanted to overlay that GPS data onto your video. You, of course, can also use the GPS remote control that they came out with the Action 4. You're able to use that here with the Action 5 if you wanted to record that data. Right away when I use this camera, the one thing I saw that they enhanced on this one, which I really like, is the startup time. Once you press the record button or the power up button, it powers up almost instantly. And quickly just to show you an example, so I'm gonna have the camera on right now. I'm gonna fully power it down. So it's powered down there, okay? So they are now powered off. Now I'm gonna hit record on both of them at the same time. Go ahead, 1, 2, 3. And there you go. I'm recording already with the 5 Pro. GoPro is now recording. Power them both off. And we'll press this. Ready, 1, 2, 3. Recording on the 5 Pro. We are now recording on the Ace Pro. Now by far, this is probably one of my favorite features of the Action 5 Pro, and that is we have 47 gigs internal storage here on this camera. If you haven't seen any of my previous videos on action cameras or drones, I'm like, it'd be nice if we had backup storage on the actual camera themselves. We finally do. We have 47 gigs internal on the Action 5 Pro. Next feature we have here is pre-record. And this is really cool if you're out there shooting, say, kids sports, or you're out there fishing or doing anything where something might instantly happen. You now have the ability to set how many seconds prior to you actually physically hitting record that you want the camera to capture. Now having that onboard storage is really nice, and if you want to actually offload some of your video and photos, this camera does have Wi-Fi 6.0 and the ability to hook up USB 3.0 with speeds up to 95 megabits per second. Next category we'll talk about is the durability of the Action 5. Now speaking of that waterproofing, like I mentioned earlier, we can actually take this without an external dive case. You can take this down up to 20 meters. And speaking of diving, we have a barometric and hydrostatic pressure detection in the Action 5 Pro. I thought this was a really cool feature, and this is something I checked when I went on my most recent trip, and I turned it on while I was on the plane, and you can actually see the altitude on screen while you're in the air. It can display your diving time and your depth in real time. So if you are out there and you're down below in the water, you can actually see it on screen. Next, we'll talk about battery. And the one thing I'm happy to say is that physical size battery, we have the same size on the 5 Pro as we do on the Action 4, as well as the Action 3, which means, yes, you can use your older batteries on the new Action 5 Pro. That's something I know a lot of people were pretty upset about with the 13 Black, is that they came out with a completely new battery and you're not able to use your Hero 12, 11, 10 batteries on this one. They went a whole new direction now. However, it's a better battery, but now they have to change them all out if you're gonna go with the 13 Black. Now, when it comes down to the new capacity of the battery, we do have a 1950 milliamp battery, a nice bump up compared to the 1770 milliamp battery, which we had on the Action 4. Now, what's crazy about this new battery is that they are rating for this one to shoot, or their laboratory tests show that they are able to shoot up to 240 minutes shooting 1080p, 24 frames a second. The one thing I will say about DJI batteries is that they do a really, really good job. I haven't had any issues as far as really cold temperatures or really hot temperatures. Now, if that battery is not enough for you and you want to charge on the go, you can actually get one of these, which is a separate accessory from DJI. This is a multifunctional charging handle, which allows you to then put your Action right here on the very top, pop this side door open, and then you can actually plug in extra power. And inside of this handle, we have a 4900 milliamp battery. On the back, we have a little tripod, so you can pop it down. You can adjust the angle here at the very top.
And there it is, guys, the all-new DJI Action 5 Pro. Definitely a bunch of smaller changes, I would say, that adds up to a pretty significant update. And of course, we have the all-new sensor on the Action 5 Pro. Now, the standard combo comes in at $349. And if you guys want to see all of the other accessories and the prices, I'll make sure those are all linked down below in the video description. As always, if you guys got some value from this video, a big like would be much appreciated. This is Ultra Nastasio with FlytPath.com. See you guys out there with the Action 5 Pro. Take care.